So for the 48th lesson of class, we learned about time. And some of you are probably thinking, really? A lesson on time? I know what time is. I don't need a lesson about time. I mean, obviously time, we fiddle with it every day. It's everywhere. So for instance, your school schedule. Everybody knows the schedule. It's hanging on every classroom. The bells dictate us through the day. We know which of these hours are happy hours, which of these are not so happy hours. We look at clocks. We're constantly looking at our phones, what time it is. Just for a lark, I typed the word time into my iTunes, and there were dozens and dozens and dozens of songs. So obviously, this form of time, we get it. It's obvious, it's every day. But time as a metaphysical issue is a bit heavier than that. And by a bit, I mean a whole lot. And the history of metaphysics can be seen as the history of arguing over the issue of what is timeless. The major candidates are timeless truths, timeless laws of nature, and timeless realms such as the realms Platonic ideals, God, numbers, and spatial geometry. As Wittgenstein said, this is how philosophers should salute each other. Take your time. And I have to agree with him because good philosophy does take time. Now, I typed time into the Internet's Encyclopedia of Philosophy, one of the best philosophy resources in the world. It has an 18-section link on the subject, and it goes on and on and on. And that's just the philosophical side of it. That's not even the scientific side of it, which is probably even bigger and more complicated. So to take such a big, complicated issue and break it down at a high school level, to be honest with you, it was tough. And I found this video from a guy named 42 on Thoughty2 to give us a breakdown. So we're really going to dig deep into this video and into this link because I think it's about the best I have found, and it's a pretty good bite-sized chunk. So starting at the 27th second, how do we define time? Now, among the many short, snappy definitions of time that have been put forward, here's one. What clocks measure. It's attractive to physicists and whatnot. Here's another definition. What prevents everything from happening at once. Okay, that's physicist John Wheeler said that. It's a linear continuum of instants. And my brain is starting to hurt right now. A certain period which something is done. That's from a medical dictionary and from the Encyclopedia Britannica. A continuum that lacks spatial dimensions. Holy shnikes, not an easy thing to define time. And again, some more. The indefinite continued progress of existence and events in the past, present and future regarded as a whole. The measured or measurable period during which an action, process, or condition exists or continues. The continuous passage of existence in which events pass from a state, blah, 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 blah. Now, in class, we had our own definition, and every year has a little bit of a different definition, but we will, see which one matches ours. Now, Wikipedia might have the best definition for people who dog out Wikipedia. Instead of reading all of these, I'm sure you're sick of this, Wikipedia reads that time is a dimension in which events can be ordered from the past through the present into the future, and also the measure of durations of events and intervals between them. That's probably more reasonable. So we started off looking at the definition of time and the varying aspects of time. So, these different contexts. Time stood still. Excuse me, do you have the time? It took a very long time. Adolescence is a difficult time. This is not the first time this has happened. It's time for dinner. I don't have time right now. Clap in time to the music. I had a good time last night. He completed the race in record time. Things were different in my time. He should be doing time for such a crime. So this notion of past, present, and future, and looking at time, we have all of this language revolving around time, and most people see time as this. It's an arrow. It's a direction. It's linear. We had a past. It's behind us. We are here in the present, and the future is ahead of us. So from the 39th second through 349, we looked at the history of time. This was the most manageable for me because I have a history degree, and this is what I do for a living. And history of time started off with these very broad themes. Very early man had this notion, sun high, sun low, act a certain way during this time. Then early man was able to figure out seasons. Okay, things are a little bit different in terms of the crops perhaps, the leaves changing, but again, it's a very broad brush. And then human beings came up with sundials, the first time-telling tool, but it was very localized because, every day, after June 21st, we lose about 2 minutes a day. And then after December 21st, we gain about 2 minutes a day. So it changed every time. So it's a very local thing. Local times in certain towns ran on one clock, oftentimes a church, and they would chime at every hour, and that's how days were arranged for people. Now, when trains were invented, this is when the real change came up with the birth of Greenwich Mean Time, GMT. And this is this notion of the modern time in the world. And America, having such a huge nation, we have different time zones. We have 4 time zones. That's why we don't say good morning and good afternoon. We say hello. It's a general term because somebody in California who's calling New York, it's the morning in California, but it's afternoon in New York. And when Nepal adopted GMT in 1986, the world was globalized on time. That is not ancient history. So that part of the video talked about the history of time. And then from 340 to 750, it was the theory of time. This is a little bit different than history. Now, the theory of time was that time is a way to label and order events in the universe, or to measure distance between 2 events. And time is a medium we move through that allows us to see that changes have happened. And if I look at the rings under my eyes and my big belly, I can clearly tell you that time is a medium we move through. And it talked about in the video entropy, or the second law of thermodynamics. And entropy is a measure of order or disorder in a system. And this fundamental truism that disorder is easier and more likely than order. So for example, if I were to shut my eyes and randomly type on a keyboard, most likely I'm not writing Shakespeare. It's probably going to be gobbledygook. There's only so many combinations to make ordered language, for instance. And that the universe moves toward disorder. So for example, if I pour milk in a cup of coffee, this is going to change it and you can't bring the milk back, this sort of thing. That time is, so this is in the realm of the hard sciences. And then from 750 to 1018 in this video, it looked at time's speed and Einstein's time dilation. Now, time is a subject of great importance to physics, and generally it falls more in the realm of theoretical physics. And these are these questions you have in physics class about the train is moving, the ship is moving, speed of light, a ball is thrown. Okay, just for our purposes, this is a philosophy class. These sorts of questions I'm not going to adequately be able to answer, but this is Miss Wesley, the physics teacher. I'm going to ask you to bring those questions to her. I'm sure she'll appreciate it in physics class. And then from 10:18 to 13 minutes, they talked about personal relativity. This I can handle. This is more my wheelhouse. So for example, when you compare an hour of your least favorite class with an hour of doing the things you enjoy the most, when you're having fun, it like goes by so fast, and then that hour, you take a standardized test and you look at the clock, you can almost feel it going slow. Why is that? And then flashbulb memories, certain memories that you can place yourself exactly where you were. And sometimes these are collective flashbulb memories. For example, in 1986 when the space shuttle blew up, or 9/11 when New York was attacked. Time kind of slows down, or certain events, they're vivid. They just are etched in your mind like a tattoo, and other stuff you forget. And then circadian rhythms. So for example, if you've ever woken up a minute before your alarm goes off, our bodies naturally gets into a rhythm, and we can biologically buy into time. So that's another component of time. And then the video ended with this notion of time travel, special relativity and wormholes, bootstrap paradox. Again, this is more in the realm of science. With the bootstrap paradox is a theoretical paradox of time travel that occurs when an object or piece of information sent back in time becomes trapped within an infinite cause-effect loop in which the item no longer has a discernible point of origin, and it is said to be uncaused or self-created. Again, take that to the physics teacher. So I think at the end of the video you saw that time is not a simple notion. Time is a subject of great importance in history, in philosophy, in physics, and each way you look at it has a different kind of vibe. So the journal entry is what perspectives were given today regarding time, and now how do you feel about the subject now that you've learned about it. So this class is only a one-day class. We're not going to go too deep into this, but I'd be remiss to take you through a metaphysics unit without at least talking about time. So hope you understood the video, and I appreciate you watching.